Hi, my name is Patrick Elkins. I am one of the original founders here at AV Coalition. Shout out to AV Co Nation and the AV Co Network, all the guys that we work with, and all the churches that we have had the privilege of serving. We're so honored. I just wanted to share a little bit about our genesis and our journey, kind of where this whole idea came from and where we've ended up. This company was launched, I think, in May of 2020, and here we are in February of 2021. The Lord has done incredible things in that amount of time. It's been amazing to see from the original seed and the concept of this company, the way the Lord has expanded upon our vision. My background is in worship. I was a worship leader on staff at my wife and I's local church in Grand Rapids, Michigan for almost 10 years. And so we spent time raising up worship leaders and empowering musicians and raising them up. We were raising up the next generation, and we had maybe 6,000 to 8,000 members at our church. We had a 4,500 seat auditorium. Our youth room was one of the primary music venues for the region, and so we always had a very fast-paced technological environment. Well, if you fast forward a few years, my wife and I transitioned with our two boys to Redding, California in 2017. And we have been a part of Bethel Church now for almost 4 years. And I am so thrilled to have been able to transition to a warmer climate and not be a part of the Midwest winters. I'm not built for the cold. And so I'm very excited to be here in Redding. My time here in Redding has been extremely unique. The Lord opened some doors for me to serve companies both at a national and an international level that were involved in heavily in the integration world. Technology, AVL. I had the opportunity to see behind the veil. So during my time in the integration space in that way, I was able to, one, serve a company that was out there building their structures and procedures, and they were serving churches and organizations at their highest levels. I was also able to engage with multiples of, for lack of a better term, our competitors, where I have built friendships and relationships with guys who serve other companies that, in any other case, we would be racing against. It was amazing to see how often a church or an integration team would express a less than satisfactory experience after completing an integration project. And I can't take the credit for what the Lord has done. The most credit I could ever, take upon myself would be being willing to step out in obedience and just step out on this crazy thing. But the Lord had planted the seeds of the concept. And during my time in the integration space, again, going back to those less than satisfactory experiences, why was it that a church leadership team who is kingdom-minded and has integrity would connect with an integration team that serves primarily churches who is kingdom-minded and has integrity? Why was it that putting those two together, there were still these misunderstandings or these disappointments in the equation? A few things I think were highlighted very clearly to me in regards to that situation, and that's where this idea for AVCO came from. Oftentimes a church would be staring down the barrel of an update or a building project, and so they would task their creative director or their technical director or their production manager to engage the project. That means they were going to have to build a wish list, they were going to have to find a budget, they were going to have to build an inventory of what they currently have, and then they were going to have to spin up relationships with companies who could help them fulfill that mission and that vision. And one of the things that was highlighted was that the process was very redundant in a few ways, but to point out some of the highlights would be, you would go through a discovery process with each of those companies. And so you would have to have a 30 to 60 minute conversation with a representative from one company who's going to ask you questions like, what's your timeline for the project? And what's the culture of your church? And what, What's the budget that you've set? Have you set a budget? What kind of equipment are you currently using? What kind of equipment would you like to be using? What does the future look like in 5 to 10 years? And this process would have to happen multiple times. And often it was interesting because churches would frequently approach these integrators and not really have yet come to conclusive answers on some of those key areas like budget or like having created an OFE, owner furnished equipment list. And it became premature for the integrators to engage at those points because they're spending top dollars on their engineers sitting now on a 30 to 60 minute call where there's not even conclusive indicators of where the project could end up. And so that was one area where it seemed like, wow, there could really be some efficiency built into this process. Another area was that if you fast forward down the road a couple weeks, a couple months, at the time when a church started receiving bids, typically, a leadership team would require 2 to 3 bids from different companies to make sure that they are vetting and doing their due diligence and researching equipment and pricing. And so now the technical director, whoever it is receiving these proposals. Well, how does that technical director verify that one company isn't upselling them on equipment they don't need, or another company isn't steering them in a direction that isn't conducive to their future vision because their perspectives are limited to certain manufacturers or certain dealers? It became a conflict of interest for a technical director to work with one company and to take their proposal to another company and ask them to vet their work or their proposal. There was no entity or organization in the equation that could become a non-biased advocate, a voice of wisdom for the church in that setting. So that was another area that was very much highlighted to us. Somebody needs to be able to be in that equation and help dissect and disseminate the language of the contracts, which actually leads me to the next great point and highlight. Oftentimes these large projects and even smaller projects, the proposals and the bids could be 5, 10, 15, 20, up to 50 pages deep of line drawings and industry language that becomes very overwhelming if you're not familiar with the language. And oftentimes we would see that churches would end up with an experience where they would end up in these processes of change orders because the integrator thought that they had mentioned, hey, in our fine print we said that this was your responsibility. Like it was your responsibility to find an electrician. It was your responsibility to rent the lifts and have them on site for us when we got there. All these things in the fine print that often were missed. And so that was also very much highlighted to us. So AV Coalition has set out with the mission to be a completely non-biased third party in the equation, where we can truly sit around the table with the leadership team of your church, surround you with wisdom and advice, have zero incentive to sell you a single piece of equipment because we do not sell the equipment, and we have zero incentive to work with any particular company over the next because all of our contracts, when it comes to our affiliates, they're identical. I like to explain it in the way of like vehicle car insurance, where if you need a new policy, you can call up your insurance guy or gal and you can ask them to furnish a couple of quotes for you from companies that they think could, offer you great pricing and a great coverage policy, and then your agent leaves you alone for a couple of days to make the decision based on which one you think fits your budget and your hopes and dreams for your vehicle insurance best. And they don't have any reason to incline you to one company over the next. They're there to help you understand what's being offered and to make the alliance, form the alliance once you've made your decision. That's what AVCO does. We have affiliates that we work with across the nation. When we work with a church, we will help them through the process of building a bill of materials, of whittling down or value engineering their budget, creating an RFP, and then we take that RFP out in a fully confidential manner to 2 or 3 companies who we would like to invite to bid on the process. And we will sit down with your leadership team once we receive those bids, and we will help dissect the information, talk through the language of the contracts, make sure that the equipment looks like something that will serve you well. And so this is just kind of a highway version of what we do and where the ideas came from, but it's our heart to serve the mission of the church and to really bring both an efficiency and an accountability into the integration space in a way that we had not seen done before. And so we have formed amazing alliances and affiliates with companies across the nation that serve churches incredibly well, and they have the heart to serve the kingdom. And we want to help protect the church and the integration team through the process and really see the vision come to life. And so I just wanted to take a minute again to share a little bit about where the idea came from and what we're up to and where we're going. And we would love to serve your mission. We'd be honored to hear about your project. And we'd love the opportunity to sit in the equation and help you discover the best solutions for your project to really become a non-biased voice of wisdom for you, an extension of your team. And so yeah, we are just so excited about what God is doing. We look forward to the future. And thank you for checking into what we've got going on. And we pray that the Lord blesses you in everything that you're pursuing and blesses your project. And we look forward to speaking with you.